watch it. Kelly says the president continues to watch it. So let's go there now, get a perspective from Tel Aviv. We're joined by Benjamin Anthony. He's an IDF combat veteran of the current war in Gaza, CEO of the MirYam Institute, and joins us. You're in Tel Aviv, right? What can you tell us, Benjamin, about that city on this night? What's it like right now?
Oh, thank you very much for having me. So people of Tel Aviv and indeed the entire central region of the state of Israel are engaging in that which our enemies deny their civilians, namely passive defense. Israelis are in the shelters. They are taking refuge wherever they can in accordance with the instructions of the Home Front Command. And as a consequence of that, the very thing that was denied, for example, the Gazans by Hamas, as a consequence of that, despite the fact that 250 to 300 missiles have been fired from Iran towards central Israel, it's estimated that there are 7 to 8 injuries in total. It's a great testament to the work that Israel has put in to making sure that our civilians are safe, and I hope that that will continue to be the case. But make no mistake, the streets are empty. Life here has come to a complete standstill, and we are in the midst of a war against Iran.
We talk so much, and to your earlier point, it's the highly touted missile defense system that Israel has in place. We've talked on this show, and we've illustrated the capabilities of the Iron Dome, for example, and I know there's more to it than that. What about that? Obviously, even the best of defense systems can't be perfect, right? It's a percentage. It's the percentage you catch. I mean, what would you expect if the barrage continues from Iran?
Well, a couple of things are very interesting at this point. Firstly, you'll remember that during the previous attacks by Iran from Iranian sovereign territory to Israeli sovereign territory by way of ballistic missile attacks, there was an array of air defense that was participated in by several of Israel's allies. Those included the Brits, the Americans, the French, the Jordanians, the UAE, and some others. In this particular case, Israel is basically standing on her own 2 feet. So it's the Israeli Air Force that is striking down all of the incoming as best we're able to. And in the event that we're not able to, as I said, basically it comes down to passive defense. Of course, our very vaunted air defense systems are working, they're hard at work, but there's no such thing as hermetic air defense. Ultimately, Israelis need to take shelter, they are taking shelter, and it's very important to make it clear what we're facing this evening and may face for weeks or even months from now, as this war perhaps intensifies, though nobody knows what the future holds, is minor compared to what we would face were Iran to be armed and equipped with nuclear weapons capabilities. Israelis understand that. We recognize that it was important and vital to downgrade Iran's nuclear weapons program, hopefully to eliminate it. And that is the context out of which we find ourselves in the shelters today. But we will see this through. We will come through this. We've gone through wars before. We'll go through this war, and we'll emerge stronger for it. One other thing I want your viewers to note, for many years, even decades, Israelis were fearful about a strike on Iran's nuclear weapons capability because there was that attack dog known as Hezbollah in southern Lebanon that Iran could activate by way of any command at any given time. That attack dog has been defanged by way of our strikes against it, and so we are able to operate Iran's nuclear weapons facilities finally. It's good that that's the case, and I hope that we will bring that to a rapid demise and to its total destruction.
A couple of things to add there. There's 9 locations, we're told by the Israeli government now, that have been hit through central Israel, okay? Now, we also have a new social media post that came in from the Iranian side just in the last few minutes, I believe. We're popping it up on the screen about the IRGC saying they've executed Operation True Promise 3 against what they describe as dozens of targets, including military centers and air bases, and go on to talk about the Zionist regime and what have you. Now, what would you say, Benjamin, about we've talked so much today about the Israeli strategy. You just talked a little bit about the effectiveness in your view of that strategy and taking out, as we know by now, many of the Iranian military leaders. What about the Iranian response? And what do you expect in terms of their kind of strategic response, but also their ability and capability to respond?
Yeah, so Operation True Promise 3 should probably be renamed Operation True Nonsense 3. They're not able to bring about the destruction of the states of Israel, despite them claiming and expressing that that is their ultimate goal. The fact of the matter is that Iran has been shown to be something of a paper tiger, not completely impotent, but certainly on its way to being so. We saw that during its previous attacks on the states of Israel. We will see that now. My main concern for where Iran may strike actually is not within the state of Israel, but perhaps against soft targets abroad, particularly diaspora Jewry. I would therefore urge diaspora Jewish communities to make sure that they're fortifying all of their installations, all of their communities, all of their gathering points, and ensuring that they are defending and protecting themselves by themselves in the same manner that the IDF is doing at this point. One other thing that I'd like to see come about, the IDF has set conditions for this war. It's taken out the senior ranks of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps. It has decimated the Iranian Air Force. It's taken out the scientists, the nuclear scientists in Iran.
Yep.
All of that really puts Iran on the back foot. So at best, it's reacting. What I'd like to see is the Americans looking at the success of the states of Israel here, both our military and our intelligence forces, and join forces with those to bring about the complete distraction of this source of harassment, namely Iran's nuclear weapons program.
Let me make that the final question then, because it brings up something you talked about earlier when you were speaking about defenses about how Israel's sort of out on its own this time as opposed to in the past. Is that a broader statement? Do you feel like the Americans, the United States government is in your corner? Do you feel as if Israel is more out on a limb here than what we've seen in the past in more ways than one?
Yeah, I think that Israel is out on a limb somewhat. It's a controversial matter. It's a point of some controversy that Israel has launched these strikes. Again, it's not against the Israeli people, the Iranian people, and it's not against Iranian civilian infrastructure, though there is a statement by Israel that if Iran attacks our civilian infrastructure, which it is doing, we will respond in kind. The controversy, however, should be put to bed. President Trump gave a 60-day time limit for his entreatment towards Iran for them to enter into some sort of agreement. That time limit actually expired on Thursday, this past Thursday. So as a consequence of that, Israel struck on Friday. So it gave full rein to those negotiations. And I frankly believe that Israel has done the right thing. It could not wait any longer. Iran was rushing to the bomb because it has been militarily exposed by way of Israel ridding it of its terror proxies, most notably Hezbollah. And so really came the moment, came the strike. I very much support us launching these strikes. And I think with the increased success of these strikes, we'll probably see the support of the United States of America. And President Trump has stated very, very explicitly that he was fully read in on Israel's military plans. So it's very important to note that.
IDF combat vet Benjamin Anthony with this. Stay safe there in Tel Aviv. We're just hearing from Iranian state TV. They're saying they've launched a third wave of missile attacks in the direction of Israel. Thank you for all the time tonight. We'll check back.
Thank you for having me.